The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep rumble, and Wu walked inside, his simple black diplomatic suit looking plain next to the colorful robes and armor of the other delegates. The chamber was enormous, with seats, arranged in circles that went up to the ceiling. Each seat held a different alien species. All members of the great galactic empire Haiyan found his seat in the bottom row. The human section was small and placed far from the center stage. Around him, aliens chatted in their strange languages. The Skarn delegates, tall lizard-like creatures with green scales, hissed as they talked. The Zephyrians looked like walking crystals that made bell sounds when they moved. The Vorthok had 4 arms and spoke in deep, booming voices. None of them looked at Haiyan. To them, he was just another representative from a small, weak world. Earth was nothing special in their eyes. It's just another planet that paid taxes to. The Empire and followed orders. The great bell rang 3 times. Emperor Vexstar entered the chamber through a golden doorway. He was 12 feet tall, with purple skin and 6 arms. His crown was made of pure energy that floated above his head. Every alien in the chamber stood up and bowed. Haiyan stood too, but he did not bow as low as the others. "My subjects," Emperor Vexstar said, his voice filling the entire chamber. Without any speakers, today we discuss the new tribute requirements for all member worlds. Haiyan felt his stomach tighten. Tribute meant taxes. It meant Earth had to give more of its resources to the Empire. He pulled out his small recording device and started taking notes. The Emperor continued. All worlds must increase their tribute by 300%. This includes raw materials, manufactured goods, and labor forces. A shocked silence filled the chamber. Even the alien delegates seemed surprised by the huge increase. 300% meant Earth would have to give 4 times more than before. Furthermore, the Emperor said, worlds that cannot meet these requirements will face administrative correction. Haiyan knew what administrative correction meant. It meant the Imperial fleet would come and take what they wanted by force. Sometimes entire cities were destroyed as examples. The Emperor looked around the chamber. "Are there any questions?" Haiyan stood up, himself to speak. "Your Majesty, Earth requests clarification on the new requirements." The chamber fell silent. Then, slowly, the alien delegates began to laugh. It started as quiet chuckles from the Skarn, then grew louder as more species joined in. The Zephyrians made their bell sounds faster, which was their way of laughing. The Vorthok roared with amusement. A Skarn delegate stood up. "The Mudwellers think they can question the Emperor's wisdom," he hissed loudly. "These primitive creatures barely know how to build proper ships." A Zephyrian chimed in. "Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. They still use chemical rockets for space travel." "I visited their world once," said a Vorthok with 4 eyes. "They live in tiny boxes and eat plants from the ground. Very amusing." The laughter grew louder. Haiyan felt his face turn red, but he stayed standing. He had to represent Earth, even if these creatures thought humans were stupid. Emperor Vexstar raised one of his hands. The chamber became quiet again. "The human speaks," he said, sounding amused. "What clarification do you need, little Earthling?" Haiyan took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, Earth's current tribute is already at the maximum our world can provide. A 300% increase would require us to strip mine entire continents and send half our population as workers." The Emperor's 6 eyes focused. "On Haiyan, and your point is..." "My point is that this would destroy our world and kill billions of people." The chamber erupted in laughter again. This time it was even louder. The Skarn delegate was hissing so hard he could barely speak. "The humans think their lives matter to the Empire," he managed to say between hisses. "Anyway," added a Zephyrian, "what does it matter if a few billion die?" A new voice joined the mockery. It belonged to a Malthrax, a species that looked like giant spiders. "I remember when we first contacted Earth 50 years ago. They were so excited to join the Empire. They thought it would bring them peace and prosperity. Instead they became..." Our servants laughed of Vorthok, as it should be. Emperor Vexstar watched the mockery with amusement. "You have 30 solar cycles to prepare your tribute. If you cannot meet the requirements, we will help you." The way he said help made Haiyan blood run cold. He knew it meant the Imperial fleet would come to Earth and take what they wanted. "But Your Majesty," Hien Wu tried again, "surely there must be some way to negotiate the terms." The laughter stopped. The Emperor's expression grew angry. "Negotiate?" he said, his voice getting louder. "You think you can negotiate with me? You are nothing. Your species is nothing. You exist only because the Empire allows it." The alien delegates nodded in agreement. Several of them made comments about human arrogance. "Your world produces decent agricultural products, and your people make adequate manual laborers," the Emperor continued. "It is all you are good for. Do not forget your place." Hien Wu felt anger building in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. "I understand, Your Majesty. Earth will consider your requirements." "Consider?" The Emperor laughed. "You will comply. There is no consideration involved." The Skarn delegate stood up again. "Perhaps we should send a small fleet to Earth now, just to remind them of their place." "Excellent idea," said the Vorthok. "A few destroyed cities would help them understand the seriousness of their situation." Emperor Vextar nodded. "Yes, I will send Admiral Korth with a demonstration fleet. They will show the humans what happens to worlds that question Imperial authority." Hien Wu felt sick to his stomach. He had made things worse for Earth by speaking up. Now the Empire would send warships to threaten his home world. "Is ended," Emperor Vextar announced. "All delegates will return to their worlds and prepare the new tribute requirements." The aliens began filing out of the chamber, still laughing and making jokes about humans. Hien Wu heard fragments of their conversations. "Stupid humans think they're important. They'll learn soon enough. Should have stayed in their caves." Hien Wu waited until most of the delegates had left before standing up. His hands were shaking. As he put away his recording device, he had to get back to Earth and warn them about what was coming. As he walked toward the exit, he passed by the Skarn delegate who had started the mockery. The lizard-like creature looked down at him with yellow eyes. "Your species should have remained silent," the Skarn hissed. "Now you will suffer for your arrogance." Hien Wu looked up at the alien. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Something cold and dangerous. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "or perhaps you will discover that humans are not as weak as you." "Think," the Skarn laughed and walked away. He did not see the small smile that crossed Hanwha's face. Outside the chamber, Hanwha activated his communication device. The signal traveled instantly across the galaxy to a hidden base on Earth's moon. Commander Daehan was waiting for his call. "How did it go?" Daehan asked. "As expected," Hien Wu replied. "They mocked us, threatened us, and demanded the impossible." "Admiral Korth. He's coming with a demonstration fleet, just like we predicted." Daehan was quiet for a moment. "Then it's time to show them what humans are really capable of." "Yes," Hien Wu said, looking back at the council chamber where the aliens had laughed at Earth. "It's time to stop hiding." The transmission ended. Hien Wu walked through the corridors of the Imperial capital, past alien guards and servants who barely noticed him. They saw only a human diplomat from an unimportant world. They had no idea that everything was about to change, deep beneath Earth's oceans. Massive machines were already moving. In hidden bases throughout the solar system, weapons that could crack. Planets were powering up. The Empire had mocked humanity for the last time. Soon, they would learn the price of their arrogance. The elevator descended for 20 minutes through solid rock. Level 50. Level 100. Level 150. Finally, the elevator stopped at level 202. Miles underground. The doors opened to reveal a corridor that stretched beyond sight. Bright lights lined the ceiling, and the air hummed with the sound of massive machinery. Sawyang walked forward, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. "Welcome to Project Prometheus," she said to the small group following her. The team included engineers, physicists, and military officers. All of them had been working on this project for 15 years. All of them knew that everything depended on what they had built here. The corridor opened into a vast underground chamber. The ceiling was so high, it disappeared into darkness. Fusion reactors the size of office buildings, powered weapons that bent space and time. "This is Our gravitational cannon, So-young said, pointing to a device that looked like a giant metal flower. It can create a gravity field strong enough to crush a battleship into the size of a marble. One of the engineers, a young man named Taejin, stared at the weapon with wide eyes. Does it really work? We tested it on an asteroid last month, So-young replied. The asteroid was 3 miles wide. Now it's a ball of compressed rock the size of a basketball. The group moved to the next weapon. This one looked like a crystal formation growing out of the floor. Quantum phase torpedo, So-young explained. It passes through normal matter like it doesn't exist. Shields, armor, hull plating, none of it matters. The torpedo phases through everything until it reaches the target's core, then becomes solid again. What happens then? Asked Colonel Minsu, one of the military officers. The ship explodes from the inside out. There's no defense against it. The tour continued through the hidden facility. Each weapon was more incredible than the last. Energy beams that could cut through planets. Particle accelerators that fired. Streams of matter at near light speed. Devices that could create black holes and control where they went. How long have you been building all this? Asked Taejin. Since the day we joined the Empire, So-young replied. We knew this day would come. We knew they would eventually push us too far. Far above them, on the surface of the desert, to any passing spacecraft, it looked like empty wasteland. The Empire's surveys had found nothing interesting. Here, they had no idea that beneath their feet lay the most powerful weapons ever created by human hands. Meanwhile, in the darkness of space beyond Neptune, Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Silent Thunder. His ship was invisible to all sensors, wrapped in a stealth field that made it look like empty space. For 3 years, he had been watching Imperial fleets and mapping their movements. Sir, said Lieutenant Hiron from the sensor station, we have movement in the Arcturus system. Looks like a supply convoy. Minho nodded. Take us closer. I want to see what they're carrying. The Silent Thunder moved through space like a ghost. Its engines produced no heat signature. Its hull absorbed all electromagnetic radiation. Even if an Imperial ship looked directly at it, it would see nothing. The Imperial convoy consisted of 12 massive cargo ships escorted by 6 destroyers. Sir, reported Hiron, they're carrying weapons. It's advanced plasma cannons and shield generators. Interesting, Minho said. Send this information back to Earth. Command will want to know about any new Imperial technology. The data streamed back to Earth through a network of hidden communication. Relays. Each relay was disguised as space debris, or hidden inside asteroids. The Empire had no idea that humans were watching their every move. On Mars, the red planet looked normal from orbit. Ancient canyons cut across the surface. Dust storms swirled in the thin atmosphere. The only signs of human presence were a few, small mining stations and research outposts. General Wu Jin stood in the control room of one of these mining stations. Through the window, he could see the barren Martian landscape, but he knew what was really out there. Show me the construction progress, he said to his aide. The window turned into a display screen. The image showed the same Martian surface, but now with overlay graphics that revealed the truth. Hidden beneath the sand were massive structures, weapon platforms that could destroy entire fleets, shield generators that could protect the planet from any attack. The Northern Hemisphere is 90% complete, reported the aide. Southern Hemisphere is at 70%. We should be fully operational within 6 months. What about? All 36 platforms are in position. They're disguised as communication satellites and weather stations. The Empire thinks they're monitoring atmospheric conditions. When the time comes, they'll discover what those platforms really do. The orbital platforms were actually weapon stations. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. They were positioned so that any ship approaching Mars would be caught in overlapping fields of fire in the asteroid belt. Engineer Hygiene was putting the final touches on humanity's secret weapon. Ghost Fleet was unlike anything that had ever existed, but they could also be controlled by human operators through neural interface systems. Run the test again, Hygiene said to her team. In the testing bay, a single human operator sat in a special chair. Wires connected his head to a computer system. On the screens around him, dozens of ships moved through space, all responding to his thoughts. "Target the practice asteroids," Hyjin ordered. The operator closed his eyes and concentrated. Instantly, the fleet of automated ships opened fire. Laser beams and particle weapons struck the asteroids with perfect accuracy. In seconds, one human can control an entire battle fleet. The Empire's numerical advantage means nothing if we can match their numbers with automated ships. The test ships returned to their hiding places among the asteroids. Two Imperial sensors, they looked like chunks of rock and metal. No one would suspect that each asteroid contained a fully armed warship. Back on Earth, in a hidden command center. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, President Jinneh watched reports from all over the solar system. The hidden bases were ready. The weapons were operational. "All systems are green," reported Admiral Sungmin. "Our fleets are in position. Our weapons are charged. We're ready for whatever." "The Empire sends—" "What about the timeline?" Jinneh asked. "Admiral Korth's demonstration fleet will arrive in 18 days, said Intelligence Chief Unesio. "They're taking the direct route from Imperial space. No stops, no delays." A nodded. "Then we have 18 days to complete our preparations. After that, the Empire will discover what humans are really capable of." The meeting ended, and Jinneh walked to the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could, unaware of the massive military base hidden in the underwater trench. For 50 years, humanity had played the role of the weak, primitive species. But all that time, they had been preparing for this moment. The Empire thought humans were stupid. They thought Earth was defenseless. They would learn how wrong they were. In his private quarters, Commander Daehyun received the latest intelligence reports. Imperial Admiral Korth was bringing 12 dreadnoughts, 40 cruisers, and over 100 smaller ships. It was a massive fleet, designed to terrify Earth into submission. Daehyun looked at the numbers and smiled. The Empire was sending their demonstration fleet directly into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. They would arrive expecting to find a helpless world defended by primitive weapons. Instead, they would find the full might of human engineering and ingenuity. Weapons that could manipulate gravity and bend space. Ships that could phase through matter. Defenses that could withstand the fury of stars. The Empire had mocked humanity for the last time. In 18 days, they would learn to fear the species they had dismissed as primitive mud-dwellers. The countdown had begun. Soon the galaxy would discover that Earth had been hiding its true nature. The weak, submissive humans were about to reveal themselves as the most dangerous species in the universe, and Admiral Korth's fleet would be the first to pay the price for the Empire's arrogance. Admiral Korth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Domination. Round him, his fleet of 200 warships moved through space in perfect formation. The ships were massive, each one larger than a city block. Their dark hulls were covered with weapon turrets and shield generators. "Sir," reported his navigation officer, "we will reach the Sol system in 4 hours." Korth nodded. This was supposed to be a simple mission. Show the humans some Imperial firepower, destroy a few cities, and collect the tribute. The humans would surrender quickly once they saw the size of his fleet. "Any sign of human ships?" Korth asked. "Nothing, sir. Long-range sensors show no movement." "In the system? No energy signatures? No communication signals?" Korth smiled. "They're probably hiding behind their moon, hoping we'll go away." The bridge crew laughed. Everyone knew that humans were cowards. They had never fought a real war. Their military was a joke compared to Imperial forces. "Sir," said the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it on screen," Korth ordered. A hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a human in a simple military uniform. The man looked calm and confident, which surprised Korth. "This is Commander Daehyun of Earth Defense Force," the human said. "Admiral Korth, you are entering human space without permission. Turn your ships around and leave immediately." The bridge crew burst into laughter. Human was threatening an Imperial admiral. It was the funniest thing they had ever heard.
"Human,"
Korth said with amusement, "you are in no position to make demands. We are here to collect your tribute and teach your species about respect." "I'm giving you one last chance," Daehyun replied. Leave now, or face the consequences. Consequences? Korth laughed harder. What consequences? You have no fleet. You have no weapons. You are primitives playing with toys. Dahine's expression didn't change. You'll find out soon enough. Transmission ended. Korth turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the bombardment systems. We'll start with their largest cities. The Imperial fleet continued toward Earth. As they entered the inner solar system, their sensors still showed nothing. No ships, no space stations, no defenses. It was as if the humans had simply vanished. Sir, reported the sensor officer, we're now within range of Earth. Still no contacts? Perfect, Korth said. Begin the attack. That was when everything changed. The empty space around the Imperial fleet suddenly erupted with weapons fire. Beams of energy appeared from nowhere, striking the Imperial ships with devastating force. The first volley destroyed 12 ships before anyone could react. What's happening? Korth shouted. Unknown contacts, screamed the sensor officer. They're decloaking all around us. One by one, human ships became visible. They had been there all along, hidden by stealth technology that made them invisible to Imperial sensors. Now they revealed themselves, and Korth saw something that made his blood freeze. The human ships were huge. Each one was twice the size of his largest dreadnought. Their hulls were smooth and black, covered with weapons that glowed with strange energy. These were not the primitive ships the Empire expected. Impossible, Korth whispered. Intelligence said they had no advanced technology. Sir, reported his tactical officer. Enemy ships are firing some kind of phase weapon. Our shields aren't stopping them. Korth watched in horror as another Imperial ship exploded. The human weapons passed right through the shields as if they weren't there. The energy beam struck the ship's hull and burned through it like paper. Return fire, Korth ordered. The Imperial fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and missile launchers all fired at once. The space between the fleets lit up with deadly energy, but something was wrong. The Imperial weapons were passing through the human ships without causing any damage. Enemy vessels seemed to phase in and out of reality, becoming solid only when they wanted to fire their own weapons. Sir, reported the weapons officer, our shots aren't hitting anything. They're using some kind of phase technology. Captain Minho watched the battle from the bridge of his ship, the Silent Thunder. His vessel was one of 50 human ships that had surrounded the Imperial fleet. Each ship was equipped with the most advanced weapons Earth had ever created. Target their command ship, Minho ordered. His weapons officer nodded. Gravitational cannon charged and ready. Fire. A beam of invisible energy shot from the Silent Thunder toward Admiral Korth's flagship. The beam created a gravity field that was 10,000 times stronger than Earth's gravity. When it hit the Imperial domination, the massive ship began to crumple like a tin can. On the Imperial bridge, alarms screamed as the ship's hull buckled under impossible forces. Korth felt the deck plates bending beneath his feet. Damage report, he shouted. Sir, reported the damage control officer, the gravity field is crushing our hull. We're losing structural integrity. Impossible, Korth said. No species has gravity weapons. Another human ship fired its main gun. This time, it was a quantum phase torpedo. The weapon passed through the Imperial domination shields and armor, traveling through solid matter until it reached the ship's reactor core. Then it became solid again. The explosion tore the flagship apart from the inside. Emergency lights flickered as the ship's systems failed. Half the bridge crew was thrown to the floor by the impact. Sir, screamed the communications officer, we're losing power. Main reactor is critical. Korth couldn't believe what was happening. His fleet was being destroyed by humans. The same species that the Empire had mocked for decades was using weapons that seemed to break the laws of physics. All ships, he broadcast to his fleet, focus fire on the nearest human vessel, concentrate everything on one target. 20 Imperial ships turned their weapons on a single human ship. They fired everything they had, plasma cannons, particle beams, fusion missiles. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. The human ship absorbed every shot. Its hull seemed to drink in the energy, becoming brighter with each hit. Then it fired back with a weapon that none of the Imperial officers had ever seen before. The beam was pure white energy that seemed to bend space around it. When it struck the lead Imperial ship, the vessel simply disappeared. Not destroyed, not exploded, just gone, as if it had never existed. "What kind of weapon was that?" Korth asked in a shaking voice. "Unknown, sir," replied his science officer. "It appears to have erased the target from reality." The battle continued for 2 hours. Imperial fleet, which had seemed so powerful when it arrived, was being systematically destroyed. The human ships moved through space like deadly ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. Their weapons cut through Imperial defenses like they were made of paper. Commander Daehyun stood in the command center of the human fleet. Around him, holographic displays showed the battle in real time. The Imperial ships were falling one by one, their crews finally learning what human technology could really do. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "enemy fleet is down to 30% strength. They're trying to retreat." "Don't let them," Daehyun ordered. "The Empire needs to learn that there are consequences for threatening Earth." The human ships moved to surround the remaining Imperial vessels. Their phased technology allowed them to move through space faster than anything the Empire had ever seen. There was no escape. Admiral Korth watched his fleet die around him. Ships that had conquered entire star systems were being destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. The humans had hidden their true capabilities for 50 years, and now they were revealing the full extent of their power. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving another transmission from the human commander." "Put it on screen," Korth said weakly. Commander Daehyun appeared on the hologram again. Still looked calm and confident, but now Korth could see something dangerous in his eyes. "Admiral Korth," Daehyun said, "you came here to demonstrate Imperial power. Instead, you've given us a chance to demonstrate ours." "You cannot defeat the Empire," Korth said, trying to sound brave. "This is just one fleet. We have thousands of ships." "Then you'd better send more," Daehyun replied. "Because this is just the beginning." The transmission ended. Around Korth, his flagship continued to fall apart. The gravity weapon had damaged the ship beyond repair. Emergency systems were failing one by one. Said his aide. "We need to abandon ship." Korth looked at the main screen, which showed the remains of his once mighty fleet. Only a dozen ships were still functional, and they were all badly damaged. The humans had destroyed nearly 200 Imperial warships without losing a single vessel. "Send a message to Imperial Command," Korth ordered. "Tell them that the humans have weapons we've never seen before. Tell them that Earth is not defenseless." "Sir," asked the communications officer, "what should we tell them about our mission?" Korth looked at the screen one more time. The human ships were still there, waiting like patient hunters. Could have destroyed his entire fleet, but they had chosen to let some survive. They wanted witnesses. They wanted the Empire to know what had happened here. Emperor Vextar's throne room had never been so quiet. The massive hall, which usually echoed with the sounds of busy servants and visiting diplomats, was empty except for the Emperor and his war council. On the giant screen before them, Admiral Korth's shattered face told the story of humanity's first victory. "Say it again," the Emperor commanded, his 6 arms gripping the arms of his throne so tightly that the metal began to bend. Admiral Korth, speaking from his damaged ship's medical bay, repeated his report. "Your Majesty, the humans destroyed 188 ships. They used weapons we have never seen before, and gravity weapons that crushed our hulls, energy beams that passed through our shields, ships that could become invisible and solid at will." "Impossible," snarled War Marshal Zector, a massive creature with 4 legs and arms like tree trunks. "No primitive species has such technology." "Saw it with my own eyes," Korth replied weakly. "They are not primitive. Everything we thought we knew about them was wrong." Emperor Vextar stood up from his throne. His 12-foot frame cast a shadow across the room. "How many of our ships escaped?" 12, Your Majesty. Out of 200. The silence that followed was deafening. In 3,000 years of empire, no enemy had ever destroyed an Imperial fleet so completely. The Empire's military might was based on overwhelming force and superior numbers. But if the humans could destroy entire fleets without losing a single ship, numbers meant nothing. Summon the Crimson Armada, the Emperor finally said. War Marshal Zector's 4 eyes widened. Your Majesty, the Crimson Armada has not been deployed for 500 years. Are you certain? The humans have made this personal, the Emperor replied. They have embarrassed the Empire in front of the entire galaxy. I will not allow primitives to mock our power. The Crimson Armada was the Empire's ultimate weapon. 10,000 ships, each one a masterpiece of Imperial engineering. The fleet had conquered entire star systems and destroyed civilizations that dared to resist Imperial rule. If the Crimson Armada could not defeat the humans, nothing could. Admiral Vexenar, commander of the Crimson Armada, received his orders. 3 days later, he was a veteran of 100 campaigns, a warrior who had never known defeat. Standing on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Victory, he studied the reports from Admiral Korth's failed mission. Phase technology, he muttered to his science officer. How is such a thing possible? Unknown, sir, the science officer replied. Our best theories suggest they have found a way to shift matter between dimensions. But the energy requirements should be impossible to meet. What about their gravity weapons? Also unknown. Creating artificial gravity fields of that strength requires technology we don't possess. Admiral Vexenar closed the reports and looked out at his fleet. The Crimson Armada stretched across space like a red sea of metal and energy. Each ship was painted in the deep crimson color that gave the fleet its name. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a continent. Very well, he said. If the humans want to play with advanced technology, we'll show them what 5,000 years of Imperial engineering can accomplish. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks. During that time, news of Admiral Korth's defeat spread throughout the galaxy. On worlds that had been conquered by the Empire, the story was told in whispers. The mighty Empire had been beaten by humans. The species that everyone mocked had revealed hidden strength. On the water world of Aquatica, the Delphian people gathered in their underwater cities to discuss the news. For 300 years, they had been forced to harvest crystals for the Empire. Their beautiful coral cities had been turned into mining camps. Is it true? Asked Elder Coral Song, her voice carrying through the water. Have the humans really defeated an Imperial fleet? The reports are confirmed, replied Scout Wave Dancer. Admiral Korth's fleet was destroyed. Only 12 ships escaped. A murmur of excitement rippled through the gathering. If humans could defeat the Empire, perhaps other species could too. What should we do? Asked a young Delphian named Kerntrider. Elder Coral Song was quiet for a long moment. We wait, she finally said, and we prepare. Similar conversations were happening on worlds throughout the galaxy. The hive clusters on their industrial worlds discussed the news in their clicking language. The crystal beings of Zephyria hummed with excitement about the possibility of freedom, but Emperor Vextar was not concerned about rebellions on distant worlds. His attention was focused on the approaching battle. The Crimson Armada would restore Imperial honor and remind the galaxy who truly ruled. On Mars, General Wujin watched the approaching Imperial fleet through his sensors. The red planet looked peaceful from space, but beneath its surface, the most powerful defensive system ever built was coming online. Sir, reported his aide, the Crimson Armada will arrive in 6 hours. 10,000 ships, including 200 dreadnoughts. Are our defenses ready? Wujin asked. All weapon platforms are operational. Shield generators are at full power. The planet is ready. Wujin nodded. The Empire was sending their best fleet to destroy humanity. They expected to find a helpless world defended by primitive weapons. Instead, they would find something that would change the course of galactic history. Send word to Earth, he ordered. Tell them the show is about to begin. Admiral Vexenar's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. His sensors immediately detected the red planet Mars, hanging in space like a jewel. Intelligence reports suggested that Mars was lightly defended, with only a few mining stations and research outposts. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting some energy signatures from Mars. Looks like they have basic shield generators." "Pathetic," Vexenar said. "One bombardment will be enough to destroy their defenses." The Crimson Armada advanced toward Mars in battle formation. The ships moved in perfect order, their weapons charged and ready. This would be a quick battle, and then they would move on to Earth. That was when Mars revealed its true nature. The planet's surface began to change. Sand and rock shifted away to reveal massive structures beneath. Weapon platforms rose from hidden underground bunkers. Shield generators the size of mountains powered up, creating an energy barrier around the entire planet. "Sir," screamed the sensor officer, "the planet is armed." Massive weapon installations are coming online. Before Admiral Vexenar could respond, Mars opened fire. The first volley was unlike anything the Imperial fleet had ever faced. Beams of pure energy, each one capable of destroying a dreadnought, lanced out from the planet's surface. The weapons were so powerful that space itself seemed to bend around them. 12 Imperial ships died in the first seconds of battle. Shields collapsed instantly, and their hulls vaporized under the assault. The other ships tried to return fire, but their weapons couldn't penetrate the planetary shields. "Impossible," Vexenar whispered. "The planet cannot have weapons of that magnitude." "Sir," reported his science officer, "the energy readings are off the charts. Those weapons are drawing power from the planet's core." The battle for Mars had begun, and the Empire was learning that humanity had turned an entire world into a weapon. The Red Planet was no longer just a colony world. It was a fortress that could stand against the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. The Crimson Armada found itself in a fight for survival against an enemy they had never imagined could exist. The battle for Mars lasted 3 days. Admiral Vexenar's Crimson Armada, the pride of the Imperial fleet, was being torn apart by weapons that shouldn't exist. Every time an Imperial ship fired at Mars, the planet's shields absorbed the energy and fed it back to the defensive weapons, making them stronger. "Sir," reported the tactical officer from his damaged console, "we've lost 2,000 ships. The planet is using our own weapons against us." Admiral Vexenar watched another dreadnought explode on his main screen. "A ball of metal in seconds. Fall back to minimum safe distance," he ordered. "We need to regroup." But as the Imperial fleet tried to retreat, they discovered they were not alone. From the asteroid belt came thousands of ships that looked like chunks of rock and metal. The Ghost Fleet had arrived. Engineer Hyjin sat in her control chair on a hidden base inside the largest asteroid. Neural interface cables connected her mind to the fleet of automated ships. "Target the Imperial rearguard," she commanded through the neural link. The asteroid ships opened fire. What had looked like harmless space debris revealed themselves as fully armed warships. Laser cannons and particle beams struck the retreating Imperial vessels. The Empire's numerical advantage was disappearing as humanity's hidden fleet showed its true size. On Earth, President Guinea watched the battle through satellite feeds. The images showed the Crimson Armada trapped between Mars' planetary defenses and the Ghost Fleet. "Madam President," said Admiral Sungmin, "it's time for the next." Faizaneh nodded. She activated the communication system that would broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Her message would travel through Imperial communication networks, reaching billions of beings across thousands of star systems. Fear and oppression. They have mocked the weak, enslaved the peaceful, and crushed anyone who dared to dream of freedom. The humans' words reached them through the deep ocean, carried by quantum signals that could penetrate any medium. Today, Janae continued, "We have shown that the Empire is not invincible. Their fleets can be defeated. Their weapons can be stopped. Their tyranny can be ended." On the industrial world of Mechanica, the insectoid hive clusters stopped their work to listen. Their queen mothers had dreamed of freedom, but never dared to act. "We offer you a choice," the human president said. "Continue to live under Imperial rule, or join us in building something better. A galaxy where all species are equal, where strength is used to protect, not oppress." The effect was immediate. The Imperial garrison had only minutes to realize what was happening before the rebellion began. On Mechanica, Queen Mother Zixera gave the signal her people had waited centuries to hear. The factories that built Imperial weapons turned their production lines to create weapons for the rebellion. Imperial overseers found themselves surrounded by angry insects with very sharp claws. Across the galaxy, species that had been conquered and enslaved began to fight back. The Empire's forces were stretched thin. Emperor Vexstar watched his empire begin to crumble. Reports flooded in from every sector. Rebellions on Aquatica, industrial sabotage on Mechanica. The crystal beings of Zephoria had stopped producing the rare elements that powered Imperial technology. "Your Majesty," reported General Kortak, "we're receiving distress calls from 73 worlds. The rebellions are coordinated. They all began at the same time. The humans," the Emperor snarled. "They planned this." "Sir," said another aide, "we're also receiving reports from Admiral Vexenar. The Crimson Armada is requesting immediate reinforcement. They're taking heavy losses." Emperor Vexstar stood up from his throne. His 6 arms gestured wildly as his anger grew. "How can primitives be defeating our finest fleet?" "Perhaps they are not primitives, Your Majesty," suggested General Kortak, carefully. The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury. "Prepare the core fleet. I will go to Earth myself and end this rebellion." Back at Mars, the battle was entering its final phase. Admiral Vexenar's flagship was heavily damaged, its hull breached in dozens of places. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through," Vexenar said wearily. Commander Dahine's image appeared on the damaged screen. He stood on the bridge of his ship Prometheus, a vessel that dwarfed even the largest Imperial dreadnought. "Admiral Vexenar," Dahine said, "you have fought bravely, but your cause is lost. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated with honor." "Never," Vexenar replied. "The Empire does not surrender to primitives." "We are not primitives," Dahine said calmly. "We are humans, and we are stronger than you ever imagined." The Prometheus moved closer to the Imperial flagship. Its weapons were not firing, but energy patterns danced along its hull. Vexenar realized that the human ship was powered by technology beyond Imperial understanding. "What are you?" he asked quietly. "We are the species you dismissed as worthless," Dahine replied. "We are the people you mocked and enslaved. We are the children of a world you thought you could crush." Around the battlefield, the remaining Imperial ships found themselves surrounded. Human vessels had appeared from every direction, their stealth technology finally revealing the true size of Earth's fleet. "We are humanity," Dahine continued, "and we are no longer afraid of you." Admiral Vexenar looked around his bridge at his wounded crew, good soldiers who had served the Empire faithfully, now facing an enemy they couldn't defeat. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. All ships, he broadcast to his fleet, cease firing. "We surrender." The announcement sent shockwaves through both fleets. The mighty Crimson Armada, which had never known defeat, was surrendering to humans. The species that had been mocked for 50 years had just achieved the impossible on Earth. In the Deep Ocean Command Center, President Janae received the news with mixed emotions. They had won this battle, but Emperor Vexstar would not accept defeat easily. "Madam President," said Admiral Sungman, "intelligence reports that the Emperor is coming himself. The core fleet is the most powerful force in the galaxy. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can really do when we stop hiding." Across the galaxy, the news of the Crimson Armada's surrender spread like wildfire. The empire that had seemed invincible was cracking. Species that had lived in fear for centuries began to hope. The tide had turned, and humanity stood at the center of a galactic revolution that would reshape the universe forever. 3 months after the surrender of the Crimson Armada, Emperor Vexstar's core fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. The Emperor himself commanded the flagship Eternal Dominion, a ship so massive it had its own gravity field.
Around
him, 5,000 of the Empire's most powerful vessels formed the ultimate expression of Imperial might. "Sir," reported Fleet Admiral Zarketh, "long-range sensors show significant changes to the system. The star appears to be enclosed in some kind of artificial structure." Emperor Vexstar moved to the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see something that defied belief. Earth's sun was gone, replaced by a perfect sphere of metal and energy. The structure was so vast it could be seen from the edge of the solar system. "What is that thing?" the Emperor asked. "Unknown, Your Majesty," replied the science officer. "It appears to be a complete shell around the star. The energy readings are beyond our instrument's ability to measure." Dr. Soyoung stood in the control center of the Dyson sphere, watching the Imperial fleet approach on her screens. For 6 months, every human in the solar system had worked to complete this project. The sphere captured the total energy output of Earth's sun and focused it into the most powerful weapon ever created. "Status report," she said to her team. "All sections are operational," replied Engineer Tajin. "Energy collectors are functioning at 100%. Weapon systems are charged and ready." "What about the fleet?" "Commander Daehan's ships are in position. The Ghost Fleet is hidden throughout the asteroid belt. All defensive systems are online." Soyoung nodded. The Empire was bringing everything they had to this final battle, but humanity was ready. They had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, and they would not be found wanting. Emperor Vexstar's fleet moved deeper into the solar system. As they approached the Dyson sphere, they began to understand the true scale of what the humans had built. The structure was larger than most planets, its surface covered with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Your Majesty," said Admiral Zarkath, "perhaps we should reconsider this attack. The humans have clearly advanced beyond our understanding." "Never," the Emperor snarled. "I will not be defeated by primitives. Order all ships to attack formation." The core fleet spread out across space, their weapons charging for the greatest battle in galactic history. Each ship was a masterpiece of Imperial engineering, armed with planet-killing weapons and protected by shields that could withstand the fury of stars. Commander Daehan watched the Imperial fleet deploy from the bridge of his flagship Prometheus. The ship had been rebuilt using technology learned from the Dyson Sphere project. It was no longer just a warship, it was a force of nature given form. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the Emperor's flagship is moving to attack position. They're charging their main guns." "Let them come," Daehan said calmly. "It's time to end this war." The battle began when Emperor Vexstar fired the first shot. The Eternal Dominion's main weapon was a beam of pure energy that could crack continents. It struck the Dyson sphere with enough force to destroy a moon. The sphere absorbed the energy, without even flickering. The beam was captured by the energy collectors and fed into the sphere's own weapon systems. Instead of being damaged, the sphere became stronger. "Impossible," whispered the Emperor. "No shield can absorb that much energy, Your Majesty," reported his science officer. "They're not using shields. The sphere is converting our weapons into power for their own systems." The Emperor's 6 eyes widened as he understood what was happening. Every shot his fleet fired would make the humans stronger. They had built a weapon that fed on enemy attacks. "All ships," he broadcast, "focus fire on the sphere. Maximum power." 5,000 Imperial ships opened fire at once. The space around the Dyson sphere lit up with the fury of 1,000 suns. Energy beams, particle weapons, and fusion missiles struck the sphere's surface in an endless barrage, but instead of being destroyed, the sphere began to glow brighter. The energy collectors worked overtime, absorbing every shot and converting it to power. The weapon systems that covered the sphere's surface began to charge with energy beyond imagination. Dr. Soyoung watched the power levels rise on her screens. "Energy at 300% of normal," she reported. 400%, 500%. "How much can the system handle?" asked President Jinne through the communication link. "Unknown," Soyoung replied. "We're entering uncharted territory." The Dyson sphere reached critical energy levels and began to fire back. Beams of concentrated starlight lanced out from the sphere's surface, each one carrying the power of a solar flare. When they struck the Imperial ships, the results were devastating. The first beam cut through 3 dreadnoughts like they were made of paper. The second beam vaporized an entire squadron of cruisers. The third beam struck Emperor Vexstar's flagship. Directly on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, alarms screamed as the ship's systems overloaded. The Emperor felt the deck plates buckle beneath his feet as the vessel's hull began to fail. "Damage report," he shouted. "Sir," reported the damage control officer, "all forward sections are gone. We're losing atmosphere on decks 1 through 50. Main reactor is critical." "How can they have such power?" the Emperor demanded. That was when Commander Dahine's fleet revealed itself. The Prometheus and its escort ships had been hidden inside the Dyson sphere, protected by the same technology that made the structure possible. Now they emerged like metal gods, their hulls glowing with captured starlight. "This is Commander Dahine," his voice echoed through the Imperial fleet's communication systems. "Emperor Vexstar, your empire is finished. Surrender now, and we will show mercy." "Never," the Emperor replied, though his voice was weaker now. "The Empire will never surrender to primitives." "We are not primitives," Dahine said. "We are humans, and we have evolved beyond your understanding." The Prometheus moved toward the Imperial flagship. As it approached, the Emperor could see the true nature of the human ship. It was not just a vessel. It was a living embodiment of human ingenuity and determination. "What do you want?" the Emperor asked. "Want what we have always wanted," Dahine replied. "Freedom, dignity, the right to exist without fear." Around the battlefield, the Imperial fleet was in ruins. Half the ships had been destroyed, and the rest were badly damaged. The core fleet, which had never known defeat, was facing total annihilation. "Your Majesty," said Admiral Zarkith quietly, "we cannot win this battle. Our weapons are useless against them." Emperor Vexstar looked around his destroyed bridge. Good soldiers lay wounded or dead around him. The ship that had been his symbol of power was falling apart. For the first time in his long life, the Emperor felt something he had never experienced before. "Doubt? What do you offer?" he asked Dahine. "A new beginning," the human commander replied. "An end to the Empire's tyranny. A chance to build something better." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. All around him, his empire was crumbling. Reports came in of rebellions on hundreds of worlds. Species that had been conquered were rising up, inspired by humanity's example. "And if I refuse?" he asked. "You will share the fate of your fleet," Dahine said simply. President Jine's image appeared beside Dahine's. "Your Majesty," she said, "we offer you the same choice we offer everyone. Join us in building a better galaxy, or be left behind by history." The Emperor looked at the human president. She was small compared to his massive frame, but there was strength in her eyes that he recognized. It was the strength of a species that refused to be broken. "What would you have me do?" he asked. "Dissolve the Empire," Jine replied. "Help us create a commonwealth where all species are equal, where strength is used to protect, not oppress." The Emperor considered her words. Round him, the ruins of his fleet drifted in space. The core fleet, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, had been defeated by a species he had dismissed as worthless. "Very well," he said finally. "The Empire is ended." The announcement sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. On worlds that had been enslaved for centuries, celebrations erupted. Delphians sang songs of joy in their underwater cities. The hive clusters danced in their industrial complexes. The crystal beings of Zephoria chimed melodies of freedom. 1 year later, Ambassador Hyanwu stood in the same council chamber where he had been mocked and dismissed. But now it was different. The chamber was still filled with the same species, but the mockery had been replaced by respect. The Empire had become the Commonwealth, with Earth as one voice among many rather than a ruler above all. Species that had once been enemies now worked together, sharing technology and knowledge for the benefit of all. "The floor recognizes the representative from Aquatica," Hyanwu said from his position as Secretary General. Elder Coral Song rose from her water-filled speaking tank. "Thank you, Secretary General." The Delphian people wish to propose a new research initiative to restore damaged ocean worlds. The floor recognizes the representative from Mechanica. Queen Mother Zixura's translation device spoke for her. "Hive clusters offer our industrial capacity to support this initiative." Hyanwu smiled as he watched the former enemies work together. This was what humanity had fought for, not dominance, but the chance for all species to reach their potential. Captain Minho patrolled the borders of Commonwealth space in his new ship, the Guardian. The vessel was built using technology shared by all member species, a symbol of what could be accomplished through cooperation. Sir reported his sensor. Officer, we're detecting unknown ships at the edge of our territory. Are they hostile? Minho asked. Unknown, sir. They appear to be explorers from beyond the galaxy. Minho nodded. There were always new challenges, new frontiers to explore. But humanity and their allies were ready for whatever came next. On Earth, the sun shone freely once again. The Dyson sphere had been dismantled, its technology shared with all Commonwealth. Worlds. Children played in parks, where once military bases had hidden. The war was over, and the future belonged to those who dared to dream of something better. Dr. Soyoung stood in her new laboratory, working on projects that would benefit all species. The weapons of war had been transformed into tools of peace, and knowledge flowed freely between worlds. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. True strength did not come from the ability to dominate others, but from the courage to stand up for what was right. Humanity had shown that even the mightiest empire could fall when faced with those who refused to be silenced. And in the depths of space, the Commonwealth fleet stood ready to protect that freedom, ensuring that never again would tyranny go unchallenged among the stars.